So I just finished doing a Zoom call with a handful of my athletes, and the topic of the conversation was NIL. So today, what I wanted to do after that conversation, I wanted to come on here and basically create a short video that gives you an explanation or description or information on what exactly NIL is. So first of all, name, image, likeness. So I don't want to go too deep into the rabbit hole of where it came from and how it started, but just to give you a little bit of background, the O'Banning brothers. So Ed O'Banning mainly, O'Banning brothers that played at UCLA. This is years ago. They basically had a lawsuit against the NCAA for name, image, and likeness. So basically, they didn't like the fact that their name was being used in video games and on jerseys, things like that. So they actually created a lawsuit, and they actually won the lawsuit. And to me, and I won't even just say to me, but it's been known that that was kind of the turning point for the NCAA and for NIL. So being that they won that lawsuit, that really put the NCAA in a rough position because now every athlete, of course, is going to come after them for NIL, name, image, likeness, and the use thereof. So what I wanted to do in this video, which is why we're not going to take too much time, this particular video, I just really wanted to break down what NIL is and what that means to you as a student athlete or to you as the parent of a student athlete. So right off the top, name, image, likeness basically means that you can now be compensated for your name. So what does that look like? Okay, when we think about the big scale, the higher end of it, yeah, we can look at jersey sales. We can look at autograph signings and things along those lines. But if we come all the way down to the lower levels, it could be simple as making, t-shirts with your name on it and your number and something like that and selling that, creating a website that allows you to sell products, partnering with other companies that may already have products. So now instead of having that limitation on everything that you do, meaning basically as a college student in the past, it was simple. You can't make money. That's pretty much what it came down to. You're on a scholarship. You have Pell Grants, you have different things, different financial resources. But at the end of the day, there was very tight guidelines on making money and how much money you could make. So now with NIL, that has basically opened up that conversation to where now athletes can be compensated. And this means they can be compensated, whether it be through a collective, which we'll talk a little bit about today, or directly from a business for a sponsorship, for an ad. It could be from a shout out, from a post on social media. Whatever that looks like now, we do have that access and that capability of doing it. So before I go any further in that, so let's think name, image, likeness. So that's pretty much what we're going to cover today, what we're going to talk about, and why it's important to you as an athlete. And then we'll talk a little bit about how it's impacting the game today. So number one, the first thing that I want to share with all my athletes and parents is this. Just because NIL is now legal, there's a couple things that you have to do to make sure you protect yourself. Number one, you need to look into your state, whatever state that you're in, California, Nevada, Florida, Texas, whatever state, because you need to understand the rules and regulations for that state. One of the things about NIL, people call it the Wild Wild West. And the reason they call it that, because there's not a lot of guidelines, not a lot of stipulation on what you can do, what you can't do. So I think to some degree that makes it very chaotic. To another degree, it keeps a lot of people away from it because they don't understand it. So you could decide which side of the coin you want to be on. So here's what I mean. Every single state has their own laws or own jurisdiction on how you operate NIL. Some states don't, but most do at this point. Also, every university now has an NIL compliance department. So whether that's one person, whether that's a group of people that are basically helping navigate. Now, the good thing about these NIL compliance offices, their main job is to educate. So their main job is to basically help help their student athletes navigate the NIL world. So whether that's from contract negotiation, from taxes, from setting up a business structure, So many different things that these compliance offices are designed to help with. So if you are a university athlete, then look into that first. Set up a meeting with NIL compliance. Make sure you understand what you can do, what you can't do, and then you have some guidance along the way. Now, to make it even more confusing, NIL is also available to high school student athletes in certain states. Last time I checked, there was maybe 25 to 30 states that have already approved NIL for high school athletes. So once again, first question is your state one of them? If your state is not one of them, then be very, very careful, because any NIL, any compensation can literally lose your eligibility to play high school, which ultimately you lose your eligibility to play at the college level. So that's something you really want to dive into and make sure your state allows it if you're a high school student athlete. So with that said, now that we know that that opportunity is there, let's talk about how athletes are capitalizing or benefiting from this. Now, if we look at the top end of the spectrum, you got, Bronny James when he was at USC. You have Caitlin Clark at Iowa basketball before the WNBA. You have Angel Reese, LSU, before the WNBA. So if you look at these athletes, these are what would be considered the top. This is the top 1%. These are the best athletes in the country, the most notoriety, the most eyeballs on them, the most, the biggest social media following. So these athletes, of course, are going to be in a great position. They're going to be in a position to get the big brands. They're going to get the Nikes, the Adidas, the all the Apple and Beats by Dre, all these different brands. They're going to get those. Why? Because they have eyeballs. They have people literally watching them every single thing that they do. So companies understand, just like when they hire an entertainer, when they hire an artist, when they hire an actor to be in a commercial, things like that. The reason they do that is because of the influence of that person, whether it's an actor, artist, entertainer, or athlete. It's the same strategy that Nike really hung their hat on when they invested into Michael Jordan early in his career, before he was MJ, before he was the GOAT. They took a chance, they invested on him, and it paid off tremendously. So that is basically, all these scenarios are NIL. These are all NIL versions or NIL conversations. Even at the professional level, even at the entertainer level, even at the artist level, NIL is still pretty much the same thing. Name, image, likeness. The bigger your name, the bigger your image, the higher your likeness, basically is going to put companies in a position to say, we want to work with you. We want you in the commercials with us. We want you to promote us on your social media. The bigger your name, image, and likeness becomes, the more following. So just like anything else, when you're on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, all these different accounts, when you look at these, if you have a big following, that's gold, to any brand. The bigger your following, the bigger the brand. That's how you want to look at this. So the reason I kind of laid that groundwork is because I want athletes and parents to look at it very simple and clean. I want you to look at it like, just because NIL is available now and it's quote unquote legal, that doesn't mean that your athlete, that doesn't mean that you're going to get an NIL deal. Let me just be clear. Every time I have a conversation with the athlete in regard to NIL, it's very simple. It's like, hey, I'm trying to get an NIL deal. What do I need to do? Well, let me tell you, you do not want to start with reaching out to brands and asking for money. That's not where you want to start. You don't want to start by sending out emails to say, hey, I would love to work with you and get an NIL deal. Can you pay me? You don't want to take that approach. The approach that I recommend is you start with your own brand. You start with building your brand. When I have an athlete that reaches out and says, hey, can you help me with NIL? I'm like, okay, cool. Give me a day or two. Let me check you out. Let me do a little research. Sometimes it takes me 1 minute to do enough research to see that you're not in a position to be paid through NIL, right? And here's what I mean. if I go to your Instagram page and you haven't posted in 4 weeks and you only got 3 posts on your page, um, you got a couple stories going. You got, 2,000 followers. You got 1,500 followers. You got 3,000 followers. And there's just not a lot of engagement, not a lot of conversation, not a lot of comments, just not a lot going on. I'm going to tell you right there, probably not the right time to reach out to any brand. If I go to your TikTok and, same thing, maybe you have one video that, went viral and did 20, 30, 40,000 views, but your other content is minimum, or you don't even have much other content. If this is the scenario and this is what I'm seeing, I'm going to tell you straight up, don't do it. It's not the right time. What you need to focus on is building your brand, getting your followers up. Athletes need to understand that when it comes to NIL, this is a business. This is not just something fun and something cool. This is an actual business. What I mean by that is companies and brands are investing. This is their marketing. They're taking marketing dollars, money that they normally put on commercials and magazines and whatever other means of advertising. They're taking that dollar and they're moving it over and giving it to athletes, which means they have the same expectation, if not higher, to have a return on that investment. So the question they're going to ask is, if this athlete posts us on social media, on their social media channels, and we do 1 post a week for 4 weeks, how many people are going to see that post? That's what they want to know. They just want how many eyes, how many people are actually going to see it. So when they go to your IG page, for example, and they see you barely have a following, that's pretty much confirming that not many people are going to see it. You're not that interesting, or you haven't been committed to social media in order to build it. So step number one, parents, athletes, build your brand. And there's some simple ways to do it. I know a lot of athletes don't like being on social media all day, meaning they may be on it all day scrolling, but they're not on it all day, meaning posting or creating content. What I would recommend athletes do is try to batch your content, meaning how about you pick a day, 1 day a week or 1 day a month even, and you say, cool, on this day, I'm going to get a video person, I'm going to get a photographer, and it doesn't have to be this high end. There's a lot of video guys, photographers that, $100, $150, they'll make you a crazy video, 2 or 3 videos. So start thinking of ways to create content. And if you're already a creative, meaning like, you like the dances and the TikTok stuff, just be more consistent. Just really start to post with the idea of building your following. Because if you post with that idea, give it a few months, and now you start that momentum, and now you're going to increase the engagement, increase the following, increase the likes, increase the comments, increase the overall engagement, and all of a sudden you're going to be in a position to where a brand or a company can look and say, I think he's ready. I think she's ready. That's what you want. That's what you want. So step one, analyze your brand. Break your brand down. See where you're at. See what you need to do. Get more consistent. This is a business. NIL is not just fun. It's not just, some companies are just throwing checks at athletes. It's not that. They're throwing checks at athletes that they know are going to benefit their company. So last piece I'll leave you with on that part, aside from the building your brand, also, do a character check, right? So you want to look at your character as a young man, as a young woman. How do you carry yourself? What's out there? What are you putting on social media? What is it that people are seeing? Are they seeing is this a person that a brand would want to work with? Is this a person that's hanging out, partying, and that's all they see on your social media? They may not want that. So you need to look too from a character perspective and from a branding and following and engagement perspective, and put together a package that makes a company say, we want to work with you. That's the goal. That's the mission. So now that's on the forefront. Now let's talk about the flip side of NIL. And what I mean by flip side is we talked a lot about building your brand and your marketing, your character, all the stuff on that side. Now I want to talk about the NIL collective. Now the NIL collective is a little bit different scenario, right? So the collective is basically a group of, I guess for simpler terms, a group of boosters, a group of people that have decided to invest a lot of money into their athletic program, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is. So they've committed to investing into that. And that the reason it's called collective is basically it's a collection of, it could be 5, 10, 20, 30 boosters, businesses, corporations, whatever it looks like, that basically have pooled money together. So they pooled it, they brought all the money together, and now they have a budget. So say, for example, that budget is $10 million. So this collective has generated $10 million that can be allocated to athletes for NIL. Now, this is where the NCAA is going to have a lot of issues over the next few years, because the collectives in a lot of cases are basically, it's almost like a pay to play kind of thing. And that's obviously forbidden with the NCAA. It's against every rule. However, it's very hard to manage that, because if the collective comes together, they have X amount of dollars, and there's an athlete that's in high school. He's a 5-star athlete, or she's a 4 or 5-star athlete, and that university wants that athlete. They can go to the collective and say, hey, we want to offer this athlete $500,000 to come to our school. Is it pay for play? Yeah, probably so. But logistically or legally, I guess it's not. It's the collective, or it's these businesses that are saying, we want to pay this person for the branding, for the exposure, for the autograph signings, for the jersey, for everything that they're going to do when they get to this university. And as long as they're here at our university, we're willing to pay them X amount of dollars. So that's the collective. So when you think about the collective, don't think about that as something that you can market your way into, right? That's not anything that building a brand is going to result in the collective reaching out to you. Just you having a following, for example, you might have 100,000 followers, and which is great. And that's great for brands, great for regular organizations and small businesses. But when it comes to the collective, they typically don't care much about that. What they want to know is, what kind of athlete are you? What they want to know is, are you going to impact that school and that program? Are you going to help them to win more games? Are you going to lead them to a national championship? This is what they want to know. So they're looking at it more like, what impact is this student going to have on our program? You may have no following, no social media at all whatsoever, not even one page. But if you're a 5-star and you're one of the higher recruited athletes, trust me, they're not going to say, hey, if you had followers, man, we would give you some money. No, they're going to say, what is it going to take to get you to our school? So that's the top 1%, 2%. So I don't want to spend much more time on that, because like I said, that's not everyone. That's the top 1%. Now, I'll close it with this. If you are in that top 1%, 2%, the collectives are going to come. They're gonna put their offer forward. And if you're part of the 1 or 2% and you have a nice brand, you have a good following, good engagement, now you're gonna win on both sides, because you're gonna get the collective and you're gonna get Nike, or you're gonna get Adidas, or you're gonna get whatever other major company that you love. So that's how the game works. The bigger your name, the bigger your image, the bigger your impact, the bigger your bag, basically, is what it comes down to. So those are a couple key things when it comes to NIL as a whole. So my thing is this: we don't know how it's going to change over the next couple years. I know the NCAA is working pretty hard to kind of put some structure around it. But like I said, it is the wild, wild west right now. Couple key things that you want to look for when you get into NIL. If you're looking for representation, you're looking for someone to help you, or someone maybe to market you and put your name out there and try to help generate those NIL deals. That person has to be licensed a licensed agent in the state that you play at or that you play in. So just keep that in mind, that there's a lot of people that are knowledgeable, that understand, that can really help you. But if they're not registered, you want to be careful, only because, not because they're not good, not because they're not going to help you, but you want to be careful because a lot of times the NCAA compliance office at that school, the NCAA, a lot of times they won't really communicate with agent that is not registered, because there's a liability there. Look at the agent registration more as like a license, or like, a certification, if you will, to engage in marketing and advertising and NIL opportunities for that athlete. So if you want to, have representation, try to always ask the question, are you registered? Are you a registered agent? This doesn't mean that you're a sports agent. It doesn't mean that you can do contract negotiations or any of that. This is just saying, are you a athlete agent in any capacity registered with the state? Once that answer is yes, now you can call that school and talk to the compliance director, set up a meeting. You can forward them the contracts that you get for your athletes so they can look them over and make sure everything is in compliance. So now it just really opens the door to make sure that everything is done correctly. And that's obviously the key when it comes to NIL, and also making sure you're not jeopardizing your eligibility. All right, so I think that's the main, points that I wanted to touch on in terms of NIL. I just thought that this video was important because I know a lot of people, a lot of athletes, a lot of parents have questions when it comes to NIL. So hopefully these last few minutes answered some of those questions, just to give you a little background and things along those lines. So I've been in the industry now for 20 plus years. So this basically, NIL was approved in July of 2021. And since that day, I've been all over it, just really paying attention to all the different things that are coming out, the legislation, the changes, the updates. And I would advise you to do the same, because right now it's changing very, very, very fast. So the fact that it's changing, you have to stay in front of it, because what you don't want to happen is some rule or legislation to change and all of a sudden your student athlete is ineligible. That's what we don't want. So stay connected to all the information. If you interested in a couple links and things, or things that you can follow that'll kind of give you updates, just shoot me a DM and I'll get those to you. But ultimately, just stay on top of it. Athletes, no matter what, build your brand. Start that right now. Whether you're ready for an NIL deal or not, just start building that brand. Look at it as your business. These are your channels. These are your TV stations, your YouTube, your IG, your TikTok, your Twitter. These are channels that you need to maximize in order to maximize your profit as an athlete. So NIL is a great opportunity for so many athletes. I think it is going to change athletes' lives. It already is. I won't even say it's going to. It's already happening. There's tons of success stories, tons of, athletes buying their parents' homes and things like that just are just changing generations through NIL. And this is before you even get to the league. So it's out there, it's real, but you have to be smart, you have to be strategic. So with that, man, I want to thank you for tapping in. Like I said, I just wanted to give you guys this information. So hopefully it resonated. Hopefully there was some value. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and share this video. There are some other athletes, some other parents that need to watch it. So make sure you share it. Make sure you tap in, and I'll see you on the next one.